evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio. Your old friend Virgil back once again with some very special co-hosts tonight, Mark and James. That's right. JT is in the house. Say hi, guys.
Hola.
Hello.
And we are coming off of the most insane weekend and week of our lives, not just with the event, Bob's Jamboree, but with the madness that we have gone through with the property and everything else, the ongoing madness. But we wanted to at least pop in here and give you guys a nice recap of the Jamboree. A lot of you guys were not able to make it. A lot of you guys had a lot of questions about everything that went on, logistics, all that stuff. So we brought the guys together to kind of break it down. And let's do just that. Let's go through. It was a 4-day event, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Thursday was Bob's Redneck Save Hollywood show with a 35 millimeter screening of Smokey and the Bandit. Friday night was Mutant Fest, I guess we could call it, which is a film festival put on by Bob, handpicked by Bob and team. And of course, Bob gave away awards all night long. On Saturday, we filmed a live version of The Last Drive-In, as well as hosted many guests, vendors, food trucks, all sorts of stuff, and 850 plus people. And on Sunday, we had, of course, our Drive-In of Dread, the haunted drive-in attraction, which for me was my favorite of the weekend. But let's rewind back to Thursday. Guys, what's the deal? How did you feel Thursday went? I felt Thursday went pretty well in comparison to a lot of the other nights.
Thursday was easing into it because we had a smaller ticket sale, I think mostly due to the fact that it was announced later and a lot of people already had made their travel plans to come from like every corner of America. So Thursday, I think we had roughly like 300 people there, if I'm correct. And,
yeah, I think with drive-up sales, it was closer to 450.
So a very healthy night for us at the drive-in. Bob's How Redneck Saved Hollywood. He was standing on a very large, I was surprised when I got there, very large professional like rock concert stage that we had off to the right of the screen. And he worked the podium. And funny, Darcy was the one who ran the laptop with all of the clips and the videos. And Virgil and I had been out on Wednesday night, just Virgil, Bob, and myself standing at the digital booth, kind of running through the entire show and tweaking the AV settings and all that, which was kind of fun. And I guess Carl was there too, Carl Mazzella, one of our regulars, and sort of auxiliary staff. And we were going through the whole thing and saying, oh man, I've seen that movie. Oh man, that movie's great. Oh, I've got that movie. So yeah, Thursday, a lot of really happy folks showed up. It wasn't a jam-packed lot. The Redneck show was hilarious. We had lawn seating set up for people to watch him live and see the screen live. And then the audio went out through the FM transmitter. So anybody anywhere on the lot could hear it. And that was like 2 hours plus, I think, if I recall.
Yeah, it ran. I was expecting it to be like a tight hour, but he went on. I mean, that's the thing that they set up front is this show has no time limit. JB can run with it. He can keep it tight depending on how he's feeling. And yeah, he got really nice and relaxed, clearly loves what we do. And the idea that we got to play 35 that night as well, and a special title for you, Mark.
Well, that was the only 35 feature we ran all weekend, Smokey, which was we've talked about this elsewhere, but that was one of the first movies I ever saw. That was a movie I saw when I was 3 years old with my father back in 77 at my local drive-in, Claremont Drive-In in New Hampshire. And it was the first time I'd seen it on film at a drive-in since 77. I did the math, and we won't get into how many decades that is, but it's quite a long time. And, Darcy and Bob were both sort of dressed up as Burt Reynolds. Bob had the red shirt, Darcy had the red shirt and the mustache and the cowboy hat. And that was pretty cool. And not everybody, I don't think, stayed for the movie because it started quite late, but I loved it. And several friends had never seen it before, part of our regular group who were there, and they really loved it. And it just plays great. Print looked great. I had a bunch of Burt Reynolds trailers from my collection that we had Rob thread up before the movie. So we sort of set the tone with stuff that Bob had talked about in the show, some like White Lightning and Gator. And I threw Any Which Way You Can in there. and it was in Burt Reynolds' ad that I have for energy conservation. So it was a really fun scene setter, so to speak. And the snack bar was jumping the whole time. The merch tent was jumping the whole time because we had those exclusive Joe Bob Jamboree t-shirts and posters. And JT, were you there on Thursday? It's such a blur. I don't remember who was and wasn't there.
Yeah, I was there on Thursday. I thought it went the smoothest in terms of timing, and I've come to learn that Joe Bob is really all about timing. He loves having things queued up and going right into things, and I could tell the show went extremely well, extremely smooth. I didn't know what to expect when I heard Darcy was going to be running the slideshow. I thought he was joking at first.
She literally rocked it.
Doing it.
She was sitting there in her Burt
With
Reynolds
the mustache.
costume at a laptop the whole time, hitting that space bar.
Yeah, I saw her following along with the script, and then she would cover up the light to read the script when there were video segments being shown. So, like, she definitely did her research on how to do a PowerPoint presentation.
Hell yeah, she's a pro. I mean, a whole new level of respect for JB, but to see Darcy at work, I mean, she goes all out for this production and for this team and for JB. There were many times when we saw her assisting JB getting up and down the hill to the stage. So it was really amazing to see that relationship outside of the show.
Yeah, I love that we were able to present something, like you guys said, on 35 and do something our way that's completely a Mahoning staple. It was cool to let the audience that was there for Joe Bob to also get, a little peek at what we do on a regular basis. Yeah,
we had a lot of folks, obviously first timers who came out for this event who've never been before. And again, I can't say it often enough, from all over the country. And I had, they did get the full Mahoning experience that night. The live element was something we're doing more of, but not completely normal for us. But I did a pre-show DJ set that was like 4 hours of 60s, 70s country and Southern rock and
so good
spots and stuff like that, which I do not like country in the least. But if you put some country music in a 70s car chase movie, it goes a long way for me enjoying it. So there was a lot of Jerry Reed and all kinds of weird stuff I found, which actually wound up being a playlist that I've listened to a couple times and I quite like. So I guess there is some country that I like now. But yeah, seeing the projectors running, which is something that people really couldn't do the rest of the weekend. Although I think Jeff ran or Rob ran an intermission reel every day, if I recall. So there was a moment where 35 was used, but mostly...
There was also that film on Friday that they shot on 35, right?
That actually
was it?
That actually ended up getting changed over. It was shot on 16 millimeter, and somehow down the line the word got out that he had a 35 millimeter print, which actually ended up not being true. So we actually ended up showing it. We got all excited about it, but I don't think the public ever knew that was even a possibility.
So I think Friday was the earliest night for everybody too. I don't remember when we wrapped up, but
Thursday, you mean?
So I'm sorry. See, I don't know that any of us have fully recovered from Joe Bob weekend yet. The weather was good on Thursday, if I recall.
Yes, the weather was nice. The crowd was beautiful. Everybody that got there got what they expected as far as first shot at merchandise, first shot at JB and Darcy. Everything went really smoothly. Like JT said, the show went absolutely flawlessly. The new projectors that we had installed looked absolutely gorgeous. So as far as, the show and everything involved, Thursday was solid gold.
And Joe Bob and Darcy,
their autographs.
Yeah, I was just about to say they signed autographs until like 2:30 in the morning. Like
yes.
as soon as the live show was over, they sat at a table outside at the top of our little hill, and they signed for a long line of people until everybody was satisfied, and that was really impressive because they had been on the lot since early afternoon, if I recall.
Oh yeah,
or
long,
like around
long
showtime
hours, and this was a insanely hot weekend. Like seriously, knock you on your pants or knock your socks off heat. And on top of it, on Friday, moving into Friday, we got literally monsooned for a good hour, I would say at least. And it caught a lot of people by surprise. We had a ton of people from out of town, and JB said it. I think this is more rain than a lot of people have seen in their whole life. because it literally washed over the whole entire lot, knocked out vendor spaces, knocked over tents. People who weren't in a flooded area when they set up their tent all of a sudden found themselves in a full puddle, you know? So it started the day off insanely. We were juggling to get as many people onto the lot as we can, 850 tickets. We pre-sold, so the parking situation we were trying to keep to a T. Parked everybody in. The parking situation went amazingly well.
Our lot crew were champions.
Oh, it was insane. Volunteers out the hoo-ha.
Right.
Long hours on the staff in the heat, all of that. It was so trying, you know? And Friday we had the issue with the vendors where they all got knocked out. Some people lost some of their product that they brought, just got totally nailed. And, you know, it put a hold on the production as well of the show for about an hour, which pushed back the schedule, which started the scheduling issues throughout the whole weekend. JB and Darcy, I think, swallowed that pill on Thursday that this was going to be totally doable. We're going to be able to see all the people that came here to see us, no problem, and be able to get out of here by 2:30. Friday, not the case at all. It was a really long night as far as the program goes. We had 2 full features that were winners of the film festival. And then we jumped into, I believe it was 10 shorts. So the sun was literally coming up when the program was ending at like 4:40 in the morning. And certainly it wiped out Joe Bob. He was up and down on that stage every single night. And Darcy came down sick that night. So she was jumping into the weekend on the wrong foot as far as her health was concerned. So it was decided that night that because the vendors got knocked out, Darcy was going to open up the tune tent, which we had set up for the next morning, to the vendors. So they had a safe, dry space to vend throughout the weekend. So that kind of threw a wrench in the AM tune tent for both days. But it worked out because in reality, Darcy and JB were on the lot until probably 4 o'clock on Saturday. And Friday, we know what the situation was there. So for them to be back on the lot and rocking by 10 a.m. would have been a real ask, even in good health.
I must say as well, I was keeping my eye on the weather for the whole week. And I remember it coming up saying that there was going to be some rain on Saturday, which was worrisome because it was the shoot day. But Friday looked clear. Friday looked clear all week.
Saturday and Sunday were the toss-up. Friday looked really good.
Yeah, so it was like the opposite of what everybody had been planning. Like we were kind of looking at a weather situation, not too bad, but you know, some rain on Saturday. But when something crawls up on you like that out of nowhere, nobody was expecting that or prepared for a random monsoon to appear. Like someone opened the Jumanji game.
I think the best attitude of the weekend were those people that fully embraced it. It turned into Woodstock where, you know, folks literally were like, well, all of the stuff that I brought is absolutely soaked, but I'm rolling through this because I came here to have fun with my people, with my culture, all that stuff. And that's what we've been seeing overwhelmingly is even though we had to, you know, scoot the tune tent and change how that all worked. And even though we had to change the times of the photo op each day because of exhaustion and scheduling. And even though, you know, there were breaks in the photo op lines and things like that, it's been nothing but positivity. It's been nothing but love, nothing but people coming at us and saying like, oh my God, thank you for giving us this opportunity to bring the mutant family together and to celebrate and all be together. So that's the beautiful thing is I think people going into this knew that it was going to be a learning situation. First time out the gate, getting our feet wet with this big of an event. And, you know, I pointed out many times we hosted this event. As far as the organization of this event, that was handled by JB and his team. So, you know, we were all on the same page going into this thing, but just like any event, when things get thrown at you, you have to kind of roll with the punches.
I personally think that, you know, we're just being harder on ourselves than people are being hard at us for what happened with the weather, because we all want the show to go perfectly. We all want everything to go smoothly.
Sure.
And when it doesn't, everything that we had planned, this happens to me all the time when I'm doing some kind of photo op, or, I worked really hard on some kind of a set and something is missing, or something is like, maybe it is raining and like it's hard for me to get the lights working, or some kind of curveball gets thrown at me. Nobody seems to really mind except for me, because I planned on it being perfectly. And I'm saying that's how I think it worked for this whole event, is that people that came out, they still had fun and they still loved being there, and nobody could blame us for the weather. It's an act of God,
Sure.
But we, worked so hard, all of us, their team, our team, to make this as smooth and perfect as possible. So we're really just being really tough on ourselves for something that we really can't control.
I mean, we pulled the team together, and honestly, this undertaking was massive. And for us, we deal with this every weekend. Huge crowds, maybe not this huge, but weather issues. Like for our team, we rolled right through it. We were ready for the floods. We were ready for the water to start rolling in. We were ready for, the mud. We were ready for all the technical issues, because that's what we deal with all the time. I think it just put a hindrance on the production schedule and the show schedule, because it was one of those things. It was coming so hard, you literally could not function in it. The lecture tent and things like that all had to be put on a halt because we're getting nailed by water.
Yeah.
And there were so many moving parts on any given day. I mean, Thursday was the easiest day. And I kept saying to everybody, we're easing into it on a Thursday, and Sunday, which we'll get to, was in some ways easier. But we had a stage with live bands and a sound tent. We had a live TV production crew with a Panavid truck there. We had the supposed to be the tune tent, but it wound up being the filmmaker seminar tent and the filmmaker screening tent. And we had our own snack bar, and we had our own photo op, which we'll talk about. And we had the merch tent, and we had multiple vendors. I mean, there was so much going on. That radio,
and food trucks.
We all have in food trucks too. We have little walkie-talkies that we used to communicate with each other on the lot. And those things never were silent over the course of 3 days, until the very, very late hour every night. So it was so much to stay on top of, and so much to coordinate between different departments, that at one point, every one of us just lost it, either in the presence of others or alone. But everybody reached a breaking point, and because it was an overwhelming amount of things to deal with. I'm not sure how much of it was the number of people. Like the snack bar was busy, but I don't know that they ever were completely overwhelmed.
I don't think it was the numbers at all, because honestly,
there were a lot of cars, and it was the weather.
Yeah, VHS Fest was so close to what we had for this, and we handled that fine too. It's the number of people really is not an issue. It's things that are outside of our control. That what could we do?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And we roll with the punches best that we could. I remember at a certain point, Mark, I pulled you aside and was like, there are changes coming to the schedule literally every hour. And there's no way for us to relay to the fan base what is going on besides that radio booth. So we made a point to say, let's just use the FM as the information station. There are lines going every which way for every sort of thing, people waiting, blah, blah, blah. At least we can get on the horn and keep them informed. And I found that really worked. A lot of people actually said that it was incredibly helpful. The regulars knew that was the way to get the information. But at a certain point on Saturday, I know that JB had to run out because something had happened to his ankle or something, where they had to go back to the hotel. So there was the line for the photo op, which had formed and literally rocked all the way around the whole entire lot. Then we had a whole other line for just photographs and autographs that literally rocked the whole other half of the lot. And JB and Darcy weren't even there yet. And it was a thing where it's like, all right, let's just try to keep everybody happy. Let's try to keep everybody hydrated. At a certain point, we walked the line and started giving people water because it was ridiculously hot. We know that people expected to wait in lines, but to have the schedule kind of switched on them last minute, we went out of our way to try to make sure that at least they were comfortable, and informed when we were informed.
and there was one medical emergency on the lot on Saturday, and our lot crew raced to a woman's aid who had passed out due to the heat. And luckily, there was an EMT, Colin, who was on the lot on Friday, who introduced himself to Candace and said, "If you need anything, I'm here, and I've got my kit, and I'm happy to help." And we wound up calling him the next day, and he actually didn't have tickets for Saturday when this incident occurred. He was at like Dave & Buster's or Buffalo Wild Wings or something in another town. And we called him, and I'm like, "Are you here? Can you be here?" And he came back, and we were like, "Yeah, everything's covered for you for the rest of the weekend if you want to be here." And he saw to this person. There was another doctor who introduced himself. Same guy, Dr. Jack, who had brought in biscuits from Cracker Barrel on Friday or Thursday to give to Joe Bob,
right?
Which he greatly appreciated. So we wound up having a medical tent set up in the corner of where the vendors were on Saturday to attend to anybody who was overheated or had any medical issues. And there were various things that arose, and it was just like something we've never had before, something we've never had to have before. But it was fantastic that these people just presented themselves, out of the kindness of their hearts. They could have been like, "Hey, it's my day off, I'm not going to do that." But they were great, and they assisted somebody who was very much, in need of their help. And I guess several people over the course of the next couple of days.
Well, I find that this happens often where people realize how much work all of us are putting into said show, whatever one they're at, and they want to offer to help out because they see us busting our ass. It's not like we're all chilling. You know what I mean? They really see me running around, or they see the lot guys trying to help park cars, and like they do want to participate because they see how often that we're not just standing around doing nothing. So that'll happen at like almost any weekend where somebody will say, "Hey, do you need a hand with something?" Which is amazing that like our audience will do that for us.
Yeah, it's unreal. And honestly, like that happened several times over Joe Bob weekend where we had Bill in the morning picking up trash. Bill just literally rolled in as a fan. He had the Joe Bob or Bust Save the Mahoning van that was parked up front the whole entire weekend. And, we had multiple people help us out with line control on the road and literally sweating bullets. Like they're going through shirts, sweating through shirts just to help us out and make sure the event goes smoothly. And that's really telling of the community that we have and the event that we were holding there. I mean, it certainly helped the fact that we rolled into the weekend with amazing news of the theater being saved, and everybody had such a great energy and celebratory headspace that really anything could have got thrown at us. And I think either way we were rolling through it, but I think Friday the issue was the rain, the vendors. Now we get into Saturday, and it's like, this was the biggest technical undertaking of our lives, to have to put on a nationally televised show that it has so many moving parts and elements, a live factor, everything, and I feel like that production team, the Last Drive-In team, raised the bar for us in such a huge way on a technical level that night. To see them at work and do what they do and kind of tap into what the Mahoning does was enlightening and inspiring, honestly, because that show went flawlessly, literally. And James, you can speak more on this. The guys came to me on Friday after this monsoon, and they said, "Yeah, this set is not going to work. Like, we are flooded up front. There's no covering. There's, all sorts of things that could go wrong." And I'm like, we got no time to react to this thing. And they pulled the team together, which included James, and started running from there. So what exactly happened as far as the adaptation of the set?
All I know is I'm having a good time Thursday night. And Friday was getting crazy, as we know. But, I'm rolling. I know what to expect for the weekend, for the most part. I know what my role is to play. I know what set I'm working on. I know what's, running on Sunday that I'm involved with. And I'm like, I everything is under control. And even with the weather, like I know my part in this whole plan here. Do not expect late into Friday for Austin, the director of the show, who I must say, he really does carry, like him and Justin really carry that show. Like they do so much in terms of getting that show off the ground. It's the same thing with like all productions where, you have your star and, but there's all these guys behind the scenes and you don't really realize how much work they do to make it all possible. And they don't get enough credit. I never feel like people behind the scenes get enough credit. And I just definitely got to give them a shout out for everything that they clearly were doing to handle all the situations that came up with us, the things that were out of our control. They pitched in to help. And then in terms of this, coming up to me late in the night and saying, hey, so I need to talk to you about something. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, it's going to be fun. And I'm thinking, I highly doubt it's going to be fun. I really don't. I doubt it. So, but I'm in anticipation of what it's going to be. And then before he came back to talk to me, I got ahead of it and I called John Demmer on the phone, our local, not local, he's from Newark, but our carpenter friend, our master carpenter, who has helped with, several sets over the years, especially ones that involve carpentry, building houses and stuff. I said, so I was just approached with a proposition. I don't know what it's about, but there's a good chance I'm going to need you. And he said, well, thank God I'm volunteering tomorrow. He goes, what do you need? And I said, I don't know yet. Just please be available. Once he comes back and we talk about it, I will let you know. And then I'll see if I can get them two to talk. Because I wanted like some direct communication. I don't want to just be the guy giving out the orders. I wanted Austin to talk to John directly and tell him like some of his thoughts. So once Austin came back and we talked and basically said, we're throwing out the old set idea, which was funny because I ordered all these different things for that set, all these things on the request list to make the last drive-in set at the Mahoning. So all that stuff was out. And there's this whole new idea, which involved getting a circus tent and then putting a revival church inside of the circus tent, which would require building like, things you would expect, like cross and pews, various things, pews. Yeah. And I'm like, cool. So I'm stunned. I'm stunned. I mean, I understand the situation. I personally would have just taken the circus tent and put it on the last drive-in set and used what they were going to do. But I think they just wanted the inside to match, the tent itself, to have a cohesive theme, I guess. So I had Austin talk to John and give him the rundown of what he was thinking. And then we came up with a game plan to meet back at the drive-in at 9:30 in the morning, which was terrible to hear since we were all there until like 4 o'clock in the morning. So great. We'll reconvene in 5 hours. And we'll figure this out. I have no idea what to expect. So it turned out that a lot of the ideas that they wanted to do, Shudder was not okay with. They did not want to cross or any religious iconography. So they basically just went into the stand and compiled a lot of like old props that I had for other shows, or various things like they wanted film reels. I gave them some film reels to use. They wanted some trailers. I don't want to say old trailers. They're all new, terrible movies like Employee of the Month that we used for the set.
Which we have like 400 copies of.
Burn Employee of the Month.
I asked Robert, I was like, what are some trailers I could destroy?
He was like, Employee of the Month.
Here you go. And then even down to like the lettering for the marquee. If you watch the show when it airs, you'll see our letters on the marquee saying Drive-In Jamboree. So basically, we had to put a set together in a day, their team, and then myself and my brother, who was coming down, and John. So it was definitely unexpected. It's definitely cool to say that we put together the set for the show. And if you watch the show, again, look around the set, like just look in all the corners, and you'll see things that you might recognize. Or there's a crate there, which I used for the Mummy set many years ago now. And then there was a skull with a mohawk from Return of the Living Dead for Zombie Fest. Yeah. And just tons of stuff. It doesn't necessarily make sense for the idea of the revivalist church to have some of these things. It was just full of cool knickknacks. And they used they actually ended up using the stuff that I did buy. It just wasn't what it was originally intended for. But they used the lawn chairs. They used the different tinsel and stuff. So it all worked out. The set looked really interesting. It looked cool.
It was stunning.
It fit for Joe Bob.
Absolutely stunning. I think that's the thing.
They used that TV.
That was the craziest thing for VHS Fest the weekend before. somebody left an abandoned television on 2 cinder blocks. And I was like, VHS fest. You never know what people are going to leave. It's front and center in the Joe Bob shoot. I'm like, that is hilarious. Thank God that person left. Again, divine, kind of crazy whirlwind of putting on these shows. Like, even, again, working under the gun, no time, last minute, change of plan. It all came together. Everybody pulled together to make it happen. And again, it's, you preached about it, but, Justin and Austin and the Last Drive-In team, like, they rolled right with us. They certainly have the drive-in mentality in mind, where it's like, you got to roll with the punches. Like, we need to make sure that this goes off without a hitch. We've all worked way too hard to take any chances. Let's make this happen. Whatever we have to do, no sleep or not, And again, perfect marriage of the Mahoning and Last Drive-In right there.
Even when they filmed, we'll get into Sunday, but when they filmed what they ended up showing on the screen for the Drive-In of Dread, like, they did the same thing there too, where they improvised, and then they just said, okay, we're going with this instead. They changed up their schedule.
Yeah.
So they're really, like, ready to go in terms of like making it work. Yeah. When things don't seem to be coming together, they really know how to make it work, and they know, how to recruit talent and, ask for help. Like, they definitely were not being, tough about, like, well, this is our show. Like, they were totally open for ideas and saying, what do you think? What can we do?
Right.
And being appreciative of the fact that we were able to whip that set together so fast.
Yeah. Again, like, just crazy destiny with how this whole event came about, how the event went down, how everything went down before the event. It's just, again, like, crazy divine nature of this whole situation. But yes, huge shout out to them. And Saturday, I think, had my favorite moments. First off, when Joe Bob came out, there was a roar of applause that just would not stop, to the point where JB didn't really know what to do. I think he was, waited out that applause with the big smile on his face, and you could see it washing over him. He was getting that love that this whole event was about, and people were so appreciative to have him there and have this all happening in front of them. And that just literally, stopped me in my tracks. And of course, the opening, they did an acoustic opening of the Last Drive-In theme song, and it was incredible. It was this nice kind of moment of peace as we're about to go into the rocky waters, you know what I mean? And it was just nice, calming moment, and then the roar of applause. And for me, the Angela dance, when they got Amelia, they got Linnea, they had Darcy and Joe Bob all doing a dance from Night of the Demons with Johnny Brennan singing along. The whole audience got up and started doing it along with them. I was like, this is what we expected of the Last Drive-In show. Like, this is what it had to be. And it was so interactive and moving and just what people wanted. And technically, no issues at all.
It sprinkled a bit.
It did, yeah. But it didn't affect
But let's be honest. No, I'm saying let's all be thankful. That's us and you, the listeners, be thankful that honestly that monsoon could have hit on Saturday. It could have hit on Sunday during, which was a haunt event, an outdoor haunt event. So, like, in a way, we're lucky that it happened only on Friday. And not that all days aren't important, but if there was going to be rain one day, we're fortunate that it didn't hit on the day where they, spent a fortune on a production to do a television show.
And that's the thing.
And it was amazing to me to see a show that I've been watching for a while in various incarnations, let's say back to the movie channel days, to see that with a live audience, because it played great with a live audience.
Oh, God.
Well, they would cut to a close-up of Darcy rolling her eyes and the place would just erupt with laughter. And I don't think they're used to that kind of reaction. Obviously, they're not. They never have a studio audience, but I could easily see them getting a taste for that and wanting to do that more often, because it played really well with laughs and cheers and all that sort of thing. It was like being at a rock concert and a comedy show rolled into one, as well as with the bands playing all day.
Yeah.
John Brennan and the Big Feet were playing, and they were killer and hilarious. He's a totally cool guy anyway, but the bands that we had playing all day were really interesting. and people really dug that. So it was, it was a cookout, it was a concert, it was a convention, it was a live TV show, it was an independent film festival and a haunted attraction all over the course of 4 days.
Yeah, that's a little insane, like, and again, going into it, hoping everything goes well with the weather, goes well with the program, goes well technically, blah, blah, blah. I think honestly, we got off pretty well. Anybody who had issues on Saturday, Joe Bob and Darcy did literally a 6-hour version of The Last Drive-In live, and they naturally were burnt out. I remember that night we accepted the Lifetime Achievement Award, and my eyes and my body were done, like totally
You
done.
were so barely conscious. It was troubling to me.
It was insanity. And I could see it in JB too, toward the end of the night, where I'm like, this dude has to just be done. And he walked out to the crowd and said, I know we couldn't get to everybody as far as autographs, but I'll make it right if you guys are here tomorrow, or, send me an email or whatever the case was. So rolling into Sunday, obviously we didn't have the tune tent, but JB and Darcy did come early, like real early. They were there, I would say, by like 11 or 12. And they literally plopped down, started doing autographs, knocking out some people that couldn't get there the night before. They took their break. Then we started organizing the photo op lines, which that was a little bit of mayhem. But, again, it's expected, I think. The fact that people coming into this thing knew that it was a sold out show. They knew that there were 2 people to meet, like they were going to be waiting in some lines. But we had the vendors all set up and rocking on Sunday. We had the music going all day on Sunday. It felt more than any other day like a Mahoning event, besides the hiccup in the morning with the tune tent and the rescheduling of the photo op. It felt like a Mahoning event. And then when the sun dropped, it really started feeling like a Mahoning event, when the immersive nature of things started taking over and the photo ops started going crazy and the cameras started coming out. But Sunday certainly was memorable for a lot of reasons, but the whole sell of Sunday, which I don't think people knew they were getting, it was like a custom version of The Last Drive-In. They shot interstitials, pro style, edited, all that stuff in the Mahoning projection booth. They had a story tied in throughout both of the movies, House of Wax and Them, that ran the whole entire program. And I think it knocked people's socks off. It certainly knocked mine off. I was there watching them do this. And to see that finished product, I was like, oh my God, like this is happening. And this happened.
It was like a little horror movie they shot. I mean, it was shot film style. It was shot much more cinematically than your typical episode of a Joe Bob show would be.
Oh, it was beautiful.
And that was something that I don't think we talked much about that publicly, because we kind of wanted it to be a surprise, but they were on our lot for about 2 full days, maybe 2 weeks before the Jamboree, shooting during the day on a Monday. Was it a Monday and a Tuesday? Tuesday and a Wednesday. Tuesday was a show day too. And they ran a little late. So we had to delay our gates and tell everybody, the center section of the snack bar is closed because there's a production filming. We didn't tell anybody what it was. And they lit up. They shot it entirely in our 35 millimeter projection booth, lit it really nicely. I said they lit it Bava-esque. JT said they lit it like Creep Show. Either both are true. Very candy colors.
Yes.
They only slightly redressed the projection booth. And Joe Bob was sitting at the DJ booth where I then sat like right after he left for their shoot. I then did a DJ set that night for Terminator 2. And during the day on Tuesday, Val catered. So she made some amazing pulled pork and pasta salad and some vegan options for the crew. And they loved that. Then, they shot, like I said, up to about gate time. And then on Wednesday, they shot all day into the, JT can tell you, into the wee hours.
All day and all night.
And that was with actors in makeup, which I think they had a little on Tuesday. We had actors in sort of mutant
and
makeup.
Heat. Another insanely hot day.
Oh, they were insanely hot days. I felt really bad for the people who had to be in there the whole time. They tried to cordon off a section of the snack bar near the VHS wall on the left with sheets of plastic and a little portable air conditioner for the makeup tent, so everybody's makeup didn't melt off their faces. But let's turn it over to JT, because you had some involvement in that day.
That was the biggest thrill. is we got to see our one and only JT up on the big screen.
And Steve as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, not for long, but I mean, I'm up there. I was definitely up there. I was up there longer than I expected because I couldn't tell what camera shots they were doing. I couldn't tell when I was in frame or not in frame. They did it like several times where I don't know if I want to spoil what happened to me, but something happens to me. Something happens to me on the, because I'm not sure what their plans are for this later on, beyond just our event. But yeah, I made it in there a few times as a zombie because Doug Sackman, our friend from Trauma, our special effects genius from Trauma, volunteered myself to be a zombie mutant. That's a whole nother story. But then I got my brother involved because they needed people who had no problem wearing makeup, and clearly he has haunt experience, and I do this all the time. He saw me at the Zombie Fest for the Zombie 2 screening where I was wearing makeup, so he knew I could handle it. But it was nice to not have to do my own makeup for once, and to roll in and have I think they work for various haunted attractions. They do makeup for haunted attractions. But they did my makeup, and they did a very good job. But I was in it for a while because they did go late shooting, and my demise in the story was like the end of the shoot. It was right near the end because there was going to be an effect involved, and so I can vouch for how late it took. I got there earlier than I was supposed to be there. My call time was at 3 or 4. I think I got there at like 1:30 or 2. And I didn't end up actually shooting my stuff until 11 o'clock, maybe. Yeah. And even then, they went beyond that, firing guns off, firing blanks off in the projection booth. So, yeah, no, it was really cool. I mean, it was, since I do this so often, I'm very picky, obviously. So I'm like adjusting my costume, and I actually snuck into the back, and I did a little work on my my attire because I didn't think it was distressed enough. So I went and I took a knife and I was like shaving it off and doing what I would do, to my costumes.
Right.
But nobody cared or noticed. But no, that was definitely very bizarre to have, after all these years of watching Joe Bob, being a giant fan, like since Monster Vision, and even like writing him emails and seeing him at the Alamo Draft House and in between Monster Vision and the last drive-in, to be like in a production that's theirs as a zombie, which was it was appropriate for me playing so many zombies at the drive-in.
You looked very comfortable in that dead skin.
So you got on screen twice that weekend too.
I was. Well, you guys also got to be on screen. So I made it into the Them segment, and my brother was in the House of Wax segment. And so he actually got to act, so to speak, act with Darcy as a zombie. I didn't really get to act with them, but I'm like talked about like consistently in my interstitial moments, and I'm in a few shots with them, which is cool. And we got a really nice photo afterward just to commemorate the moment while we were still in the makeup before they took it off of us. But I was also really happy for my brother to be involved too, because he's been helping out at the drive-in the last year.
Yep.
And I think I've given him a lot of really cool opportunities that he didn't get to have at previous like haunt attractions that he did. So like, to say that he's in a Joe Bob thing too, like it definitely pays off to help at the Mahoning.
Oh God, yeah. That's why I said like you guys have credits forever on the last drive-in.
I don't know if there will be a credit. There weren't credits at that night. Yeah. Maybe there will be.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to ask Justin. Could you give us an IMDb credit, please?
So also, speaking of you and Steve, and you can get back to this if you have a continued thought, but I wanted to make sure you talked about those amazing vehicles that you had set up as people drove in too.
Make a long story short, there's a lot of ideas I wanted to do for this show. And, being that it was like a joint effort by both parties, it ought to be agreed upon. And I was, Jeff gave me free rein to just kind of do some of my ideas. And one of them was the giant ant set, and one of them was some drive-in Deathmobiles, just to add some kind of a punk rock flavor, kind of like leftover VHS Fest attitude, bring it over to Joe Bob, because there are so many of our shows that we do that I know would impress people. Like and not everybody can come out. And this was a great opportunity for people to come out for Joe Bob, but also see stuff that we do, like for ourselves, and kind of like the Mahoning style. So we worked on these 2 derby cars that Candace loaned out for us to do whatever we wanted to. So we put 35 millimeter film reels on the wheels, and he made a gun turret out of a film reel. Like that's the barrel, like a Tommy gun ammo canister.
And by a skeleton.
Yeah, that's right. And then we put a Mahoning arrow on the top as like an implement of death, that said Mahoning DIT on it, with a cowboy riding it. And just a lot of just fun, cool design elements. We had a VHS car. And so the whole idea was we had a VHS car versus a 35 millimeter car. And one of them said VHS is king, and the other one said death to digital, 35 for life. So a lot of people were getting pictures with them. I've seen a ton of photos, even though, I was all the way on the other side of the property. They were over tucked away kind of by where you enter. People were still wandering past them and getting photos with them all weekend. So I'm glad they were there for a purpose. And obviously the ant set served another purpose on Sunday when it got used for the official photo op. JB and Darcy got to pose with the ant at the lawn chairs, and it fit thematically because their set on Saturday was what was going to be the last drive-in set, the original set. They still used it for the most part, and they used that for the photo ops. And then on Sunday, to fit with the programming, to fit with them, they used that as the photo op. So it is definitely, cool that people did take to the things that me and my brother put together. And I also had help from Lisa's friend Chris, who's an amazing, special effects guy. He can make whatever I ask him to. And Sheila, who digitally removed some people in the background of the photo op. That was a scene from the movie, and just like with the Karate Kid show before that, she used her technical wizardry and removed people, removed actors. To give it a clear canvas, which is amazing. So again, if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have turned out.
For anybody who somehow missed photos of that photo op, it was a giant black and white photo from them of the ant coming over the hill. You, the person, would be in the foreground. There was a giant ant head looking like it came up out of an ant hill on the ground, giant, fully formed ant head. And then it was Lisa painted visibly head to toe in gray makeup, so she looked like she was a black and white person. And that was amazing to look at.
Stroke of genius, James.
She was airbrushed, so that was not easy to get off.
She's still looking a little pallid.
But yeah, the whole idea was that, a little bit. Are you sick? But no, the thing is, I can't really, because you're using people's cell phones, so you really can't mess with their features on their phone when you take a picture. A lot of pictures, I would like them to be black and white, like when we did the Universal Monsters ones. I'd love it if their photos were black and white, but I can't really mess with their phone settings. So then I thought, well, we'll just do it manually, and we'll just do a black and white set, and they're the only color element in the set, like a Pleasantville or something.
And did you spray paint the sand gray as well?
No, I bought gray sand. It wasn't as gray as I expected, but I did spray paint the trees. I pulled trees out that matched the set, like what's in the shot, the desert or whatever scene it is in the movie, and I spray painted them black and white to match. So, yeah, there was I did everything I could to try to make it as black and white as possible.
It was so good. I remember when we first put our heads together on this thing, we were like, let's have attractions everywhere. Let's have it be like, no matter where you are on the lot, there's some sort of action going on. And, we cut back the amount of sets that originally we were planning on, but that certainly was executed. No matter where you were on that lot, all you had to do was take a couple steps, either one way or the next, and you are in some action. You are in line for a food truck, in line for the vendors, in line for the stand, in line for the up front with the bands, whatever. There was just so much action. And I think, like you said, James, it really showed off what the Mahoning does on a regular basis, but also raised that bar for what inevitably was the biggest event we've ever put on. And it was a massive undertaking for all. JB and Darcy are absolute troopers, rolling through, making sure everybody was happy. They even went the extra mile to say, hey, if anybody wasn't happy, reach out to Joe Bob personally, and they are going to make you happy. But, Mark's been fielding the emails, coming into things. Obviously, it was ticketing issues. And now that we're rolling through things, it's amazing. It's been nothing but kind of simple questions, thanking us, whatever the case is. But the big question we keep getting is, when is it coming back? Like, what's going on? Can we plan on this? Can we expect this to be a regular thing? We went out of our way to promote this as the first annual Joe Bob Jamboree at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. And we certainly plan to do this every single summer as long as we can. And the plus is that since we got this out of our system this year, we can learn from so much. We can make next year so much better, such a better experience for people. And off of Mark's suggestion, I say we do it about a month earlier to try to beat that heat.
I remember originally we were going to do something last October, and I was one of the guilty parties that said, no, we should do it in July when it feels like we're in Texas.
Thanks, James.
But this year has been a very bizarre year for weather overall. Like, we've never had a year with this much humidity, with this much rain. It's very unexpected for us even. So, I can only hope for the best next year. But I mean, for those that say global warming doesn't exist, just saying, normally these are, we'll get the occasional rain, the occasional humidity for sure, but it's a very tricky year with trying to work around weather. So I'm all for moving it up or moving it back even,
Yeah. I mean, hell, if this is something we could do regularly, because that was the big thing where it's like, there's just not enough tickets to go around to the amount of people that want to come to this annual Jamboree. But I think moving into it, figuring out that, what we can offer over a weekend, what we can do, how we can spread out the experience, all that stuff only makes things better moving into the future. And honestly, let's be real, guys, like that's how the Mahoning rolls. Or have we not been built on annual events that get better every year?
And also, I mean, so many people were disappointed they couldn't get in. And can we release more tickets? I feel like everybody who was present on either side of the counter realizes that you don't want more people than that there. Like, to potential attendees, it's like, do you want to wait in a line that's even longer than what was there that weekend? I think it would be better if it was kept at a very, very manageable number of people who all had an incredible time, and not something where you just pack people in and everybody is waiting in lines for everything forever and running out of things. I think it's much better if you can keep it a bit mellower. So I think we saw really the absolute cap on how many people we want to have on the lot for an event and still have it be comfortable.
And I think, honestly, again, so much has to be said about Joe Bob and his team, but also the Mahoning team. I've never seen this team pull together like they did for this Joe Bob weekend under the circumstances. It was incredible and moving, to really see so many people come together for the common good of what we do, putting all the egos and bullshit aside and saying like, hey, this is what we do. This is our core. This is a celebration of the drive-in and the culture. And I'm going to do anything that I can to make sure that everybody here has an amazing time. And that's the one thing we kept hearing was like, your staff, the staff is just amazing, out of this world. And that was the big plus of this event, is it brought in a ton of new people that have only heard of the legend of the Mahoning, and they got to take it in and see what that's all about. I mean, for us to do what we did is kind of mind-bending. And I think coming out of it, some people still are thinking like, what a fever dream that was.
No, I said it earlier. I mean, everybody rocked hard every day. Some of our staff was up and on the lot, before 9 a.m. and was there until 4 or 5 a.m. I mean, we were all operating on a couple hours of sleep and then doing it over again the next day. And I mean, every single department. Everybody in the kitchen was amazing and we dealt with how hot it was anyway. And now add the food warmers and the grills on top of that. And dealing with an endless stream of people and questions about everything. And Sandy and her gang at the merch tent were that line she had. I've never seen anything like that for the merch tent. It rivaled the line for Joe Bob and Darcy. We had Amelia Kincaid and Linnea Quigley were there all weekend as well. And people, our staff was attending to them. We had our lot crew working that gate where I'm sure I haven't even talked to them about what the gate was like, but we knew going into this, there'd be a lot of questions about tickets and tiers and who can get in and who can't and all that other stuff. They dealt with that. I didn't hear a peep about that. We had people dealing with medical emergencies. We had people parking cars. I mean, everybody was helping out in other departments when needed. It was an amazing testament to who we have working with us and for us that we all survived it.
Let's be honest here. Hold on. Let's be honest. What other drive-in movie theater, not like convention center, not like an arena, like what drive-in theater could handle an event like this other than ours?
You're right. I mean, certainly when you look at the layout of the land and how this event went through and was set up, I mean, the Mahoning is ideal, but I think more than the physical space, it's about the cultural space. We saw the Mutant fam and the Mahoning fam become one overnight and really rally behind what the Mahoning stands for overnight. And I think that goes a really long way for the Mutant fam to say, this is our home. This is where the Jamboree has to be, And I don't think there's a question. I mean, from inception to that first meeting with JB in the snowstorm, to execution, to pulling together last minute sets, to everything. It's like we are a team in this thing. And, we all have each other's back. And rolling into this, you want the learning curve.
Yeah, they could have this event, at a Philadelphia convention center. They could do that. But, they won't have the drive-in experience. And, there's nowhere else in the country to have that authentic drive-in experience like our drive-in. It just does not exist anywhere but in Lehighton, Pennsylvania.
And can I jump non-linearly back a little bit to talk about an aspect of Sunday's haunted drive-in that we did not talk about? And that was the live actors that we had. Because one of the greatest moments I've experienced at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, occurred during intermission. And it's all to thank or blame Steve Mills on that. So we had Amanda Blake was there doing the makeup as she had for the shoot that was appearing on screen. But she also made up various volunteers and actors and some friends of ours as these drive-in mutants, who was the notion is that they're these strange hill people who have come down out of the mountains to descend upon the drive-in. And she had people made up as like pig people and mutants and zombified people with film quality makeup appliances.
Oh, it was
and costuming
unreal.
Down to people's literally down to their fingertips, everything that was exposed. And at some point, Steve said, we need to have everybody come in, all these actors come into and mess with people in the snack bar during intermission. And I was outside. I was watching him organize the whole thing. This was totally on him because they didn't really have instructions to do anything during intermission. And during that first intermission, they all came in and messed with people. And it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen there. It was like being in the middle of the Universal Studios Halloween show or something.
Yes.
Makeup was top notch. Every performer
and it worked out perfect.
People were cracking up and taking photos and videos and people were getting scared. Like they were during the movie, they were out there scaring people. And I guess John Brennan got full on, screech scared by somebody who popped up behind them, which may have been.
Oh, it was the best. You heard screams coming from all different corners of the lot. You're like, this is working. But that was a great move because JB and Darcy were pretty much locked into that table.
Right.
Indoors for Sunday. So they really couldn't experience the show or the haunt. So to have the actors come in was amazing. And I know that they really appreciated it. But you hit it on the nose. I love Amanda Blake, and her work was amazing. And Jolene Richardson, who also does the costuming for The Last Drive-In, they knocked it out the park. Again, like inspirational work that raised the bar for the Mahoning in such a huge way. And it was that tenfold, from the production team, to the makeup artists, to the costumes, to the actors, to the vendors, to the musicians, to Johnny and all he did up on stage. And it just was such a massive undertaking and took so many moving parts and people to do it. And this is the perfect platform to say it. Like, anybody who gave their heart and their sweat to make the Jamboree happen, thank you so much. Like, this is what the Mahoning is all about. The teamwork to make something unbelievable happen. And I've said this in the press, I've said this on the radio. My whole motto performing on stages for years was give people something they're going to remember forever. Don't give them that 15-minute escape. Give them something they're going to be talking about at the Christmas table. You know what I mean? Around the table at Christmas or dinner. And we pulled that off in a big, bad way. This is something people are going to be talking about for years to come and remember this experience for years to come. And we feel so honored and blessed to be the home of Joe Bob's Drive-In Jamboree.
This is why you grab people who have various skills and talents. Everybody that helps out at the drive-in each has different attributes and abilities that we allow them to express. And like, as Mark was saying with my brother, he has haunt experience. Like, he knows that you can't have actors walking around in the dark because people won't see you. Like, he knows this. So he was able to bring that, from his past and be like, you know what? Let's really make sure we show off these costumes and this makeup and, get them in the light, because the intermission for Sunday was super brief. It was like, what, 10-minute countdown reel, and that was it?
With the idea of keeping the show rolling along, yeah.
Well, yeah, so like that would have been a great time to like let the actors roam around with the lights on, mingle with the crowd, but that was, as you said, that was like something that only somebody who has a haunt experience would have been able to think about. And everyone on the crew with their own experiences were able to pull and assist and make everything work across the board, from you guys running social medias. And I heard you on the walkies like all day, Virgil, like all day. Since I actually got to use the walkie this time, it was just constant chatter about the communication and getting everybody on the same page. And you were constantly talking. Like I feel like your entire day was spent getting the cars in there, and they all were in there. I didn't know if we could pull it off, but
that was my biggest
concern. We could even squeeze a few more.
That was my biggest worry. On Friday and Saturday, I made a point to be out on the lot crew and get them started in each row, getting things parked. So on Sunday, I could take it a little bit easier and focus on the production end of things and let them run with it. But it was incredible. Like I said, we pushed it to the limit. We had just gotten work done on the lot, just enough work to get us through. And
there was still a bulldozer working on Thursday, if I recall, before showtime.
Yeah, there was a bulldozer on the lot. People, I think, thought it was part of the show.
Of course it was.
But it's perfect. I have to bring this up because, there were so many moving parts and elements and things that we had to push off and change schedules and blah, blah, blah. My favorite aspect of the show is that at the top of the hill where Joe, Bob, and Darcy were set up, there was a dunk tank, and it sat there for 3 days, and we did not touch that dunk tank once. There were big plans to dunk JB and Darcy and all sorts of crazy stuff on Sunday, and we just had to roll with the punch. And JB and Darcy, being the champs that they are, they were like, we are going to make sure that we get face to face with every single person that is on this lot. And it took them all night long, so all day and all night.
They never rushed it either. They took as much time as anybody wanted to take with them, which is not always the case when you have lines like that at signings. It was pretty impressive to see.
Yeah, if you were there Sunday, you were a happy camper. You know what I mean? And it was really great to see. And we have to thank all the Mutant family and people who rolled with the punches. I had to face 400 people both days for the Toon Tent and let them know, hey, change of plans. But everybody was so supportive, so on board, so thankful. It was just, on a side note, I don't think I've ever given more hugs to strangers in my life. The fact that the news went out right as the Jamboree folks were heading into town, they were coming ready to embrace us and ready to take us into their heart. And, again, in a crazy stroke of divine nature here, it seems like this was meant to be. The fact that we got to have the drive-in king with us on the weekend that we were all able to save the drive-in is pretty insane. So certainly something we won't forget anytime soon, and certainly something we hope you guys will not forget anytime soon. So I think that wraps up the Jamboree. What do you think? You guys have anything else you want to drop in there?
No, I think overall mostly hits with a few misses. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a Mutant fan member myself. Giant Joe Bob fan forever. And like, if I was coming to the event, I would have been pretty damn impressed because there was so much to do, so much going on. The hiccup, if it had not rained, I think the whole weekend would have went off flawlessly. Yeah. But we had one issue on one day, and it kind of affected the whole weekend to various degrees. But I thought Thursday went perfectly. I thought Sunday went perfectly. And I thought Saturday was mostly a win with minor issues, tiny. And Friday was the one day that was
Yeah.
So I don't think we really have to learn too much from some of those other days. We just have to go forward and look out for weather, I guess. And I mean, still try to run things the way that we did it. You take lead with a lot of the things that you did, and I'll run my department, and Mark will handle the way, hopefully with some help with all the questions coming in from the social media for months and months and months on end. Which I'm sure he's glad is over.
There is. I do want to give a bottle of the preferred brand to whoever invented Control C and Control V, because it does help in answering the same questions over and over again.
Well, that's what we traditionally get, for these not big events, is a lot of the same questions. People wondering, hey, can I bring my dog? Hey, can I?
And I love answering questions because most of the time the answers I'm giving people make them happy and surprised. So I love dealing with the public, and I wound up being the DJ all weekend, which I hadn't planned on. So that seat of my pants DJ, I'm kind of used to, although I wasn't really sure anybody could hear anything because the bands were playing the whole time. But at the run out groove on the new Joe Bob album that Ship to Shore put out that we were playing a lot to promote it, the run out groove is Joe Bob saying the word shit, and it just repeats. And apparently I got pulled away to go deal with something outside, and it was stuck saying shit for like 15 minutes over the radio. So some lady told me, because like I was in my car because I didn't enjoy the bands and I had the air conditioning on, and it was just saying shit forever. How are you?
Welcome to Jamboree, y'all.
Hello, folks at Walmart. Why does that religious station suddenly say the word shit over and over? No, I think we all learned a lot on both sides of the equation, the JB team and us, about how to deal with it next time, and better adjustments to logistics and communication. And I was just so busy, I wasn't able to do updates online. And because things kept changing so fast, by the time you would say what the situation was, it had changed again because we were all kind of learning on the fly with some of this stuff.
Yeah, it really came down to schedule. I'd say that's the only thing. And I think JB and Darcy had that reality check of being like, there's just a ton of people here and only so much time and only so much of us. And I think the idea of moving that photo op back just wrenched plans for the day. Because the idea was like when we did Bruce Campbell, we opened up the gate early for VIP. They got their VIP treatment as far as the photo op. Then the next gate opens, and the guest is open and available for that group. So when things started shifting around and schedules and times started getting changed, it just naturally down the line started affecting each and every step along the way. But again, as far as a humongous event like this, everybody got the opportunity to meet JB and Darcy. Everybody got the opportunity to meet the family, the Mutant family and the Mahoning family, and enjoy music and vendors and like-minded people and food. And I think it's everything that you would want in a Jamboree. So hopefully we can, like you said, learn from this year in a big bad way, and in our plannings for next year, make things that much better for people. So yeah, I would say on that note, guys, what do you think? You're going to sign off for everybody?
I have nothing more to say on the topic until we bring it up again in a future show.
Yeah. Until part 2,
That's
when
right.
the real truth comes out. No, I'm kidding.
Join us in 10 years for Joe Bob's Jamboree 1, The True Story.
No, we loved it. We love the team. We love the fam.
No, it's just crazy that our ragtag team pulled this off.
Yeah.
People don't realize that people that came from all over, like, they are a production team. The Last Drive-In team is a formal and professional production team, and we are a ragtag group of friends who had this passion for drive-ins and movies, and the fact that we hosted this show is insane. Like I never would have thought that Joe Bob would have a show again that was as popular as this one is now, let alone that after that would happen, that we would host that show at the theater. Like, that is mind-blowing and will always be mind-blowing.
Yes, it's incredible. And I think that the legend certainly was strengthened after this last weekend in a lot of ways, but aligning us with somebody like Joe Bob and the Mutant family, it's again the perfect stroke of destiny for us, and a perfect step forward for us to say, hey, this is an annual that everybody can look forward to. This is an annual that we can work better at every single year. And I think all in all, it was just insanity.
To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. But I thank both of you guys so much for all your hard work, not just with Joe Bob, but with everything. The people have been asking, when's James coming on the podcast? So you guys get a little taste. We're going to try to get him back as soon as possible.
Be careful what you wish for. That's all I have to say.
Enough of James already, they'll be saying. But I love you guys. And thank you guys all out there listening to this for supporting the fight, supporting the Jamboree, and moving forward in the future with us. So on that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.